Greetings, context of white supremacy, Gus T. Renegade, and justice. Hopefully sharing constructive information, another program to help replace white supremacy with justice immediately. If you are in the chat room listening to the program, there is no chat room. If you're listening live, not open the chat room because I feel like quite often people miss a lot of information because they are chatting and talking to other people, and they end up not really paying attention to key things that are said during the broadcast. So I'm going to be trying waiting about an hour into the show before I open the chat room and see if that helps make it a little more constructive. Today's program, one of my listeners said that Guinea Pig Kids, I didn't know anything about it, but she said, you should really check out the Guinea Pig Kids investigation. I think that's related to racism, and I think it would be good to share that information on the program. I started doing some research on it and found an individual who is very informed about this. He actually broke the story first, early 2000s, writing about what was happening to a lot of non-white kids in the foster care system in New York. He has a website. If you're listening live to the program, you can just look at the description, click on his name, and it'll take you right to his website. He also has another site where he has a lot of constructive information about racism. It is reducetheburden.org. He also participated in a great documentary film, House of Numbers, which, again, all about AIDS, and I think you'll see, just by listening to the broadcast, very relevant to racism, white supremacy. Our guest for today's program, Mr. Liam Scheff. Make sure he is with us. Mr. Scheff, are you with us?
Hi, am I coming in? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Good.
Can you share a little bit?
You can call me Liam through the. You can call me Liam through the show. It's fine.
Okay. Could you, Liam, share a little bit about yourself so our listeners get a better idea of who you are and the work that you do?
Sure. I've worked as an independent journalist for 7 or 8 years now. I worked at I wrote for a couple of weeklies. I wrote for a website called the Guerrilla News Network. I covered a variety of things that were of interest to me. That's a blessing of being an independent journalist. I ended up breaking a story on kids who were being used in NIH. NIH is the National Institutes of Health. I'm going to be saying that a lot, NIH. They're sort of quasi-military medical. When you get an edict coming out that everybody's going to die from the bird flu, that comes through the NIH and the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control. Both quasi-military, but the NIH funds research. It takes tax money and funds research. So I found out there was an orphanage in New York using NIH money, and the NIH was using them, the kids, to do experiments on, and I started to write about it. I investigated it further and further, and, that's what the show's going to be about, I guess. We'll tell all about it. I had come to this, though, from my own background, is that I'm I'm an average citizen. I grew up in the family that I grew up in, which happened to be a family of doctors and researchers, a lot of them working, with the NIH and in the industry. I grew up in the magazine on the table when I was growing up was the Journal of the American Medical Association and the New England Journal of Medicine, so it was very much in the family that medicine was what was talked about. And for some reason, maybe that's the reason, when I started doing journalism, I had a feeling, a different feeling for medicine than a lot of people did. It was stuff that people talked about. They argued about it. It was not written in the Bible. It was not the great received truth. I saw people fight about science, ridicule each other because they didn't like each other's ideas. And I'm talking about paid professionals who get published in the journals. And I knew that science changed every 6 months or so, and that it was mostly a lot of academic and political stuff that was going on, same as any other business. So when I started writing about science, I came to it with a perspective that it was a business. That's probably what you need to know about me right there.
Wow, very interesting. Before we hop into your work, every program, just like to clarify, you are a white male, is that correct?
Last time I checked, yeah.
Okay. This program, the COWS, Context of White Supremacy, I have unfortunately concluded that we are in a global system of racism, white supremacy, and the definition that I use for both racism and white supremacy is a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to mistreating and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you feel that such a system exists, and do you feel that is an accurate definition for that system?
Well, it's my view of the world is that we tend to be tribal, and I was talking to a young person I knew who did happen to be slightly more African in descent than myself, and we were talking about race a little bit. I said to him, "Look, you look at me, and I'm the white guy, right? So I'm the problem. But when we become friends, you won't see me that way anymore." And I said, "Think about it like this: you and your friends are hanging out, and you're all fighting with each other and picking on each other, and you're getting irritated with each other. But then you see a group of boys cross the playground, and you don't know them. Suddenly, you and your friends who were fighting a minute ago are best friends, and nothing could tear you apart. And you want to know who these new guys are, and they're the enemy." That happens almost all the time, as far as I can tell. So there's that aspect to the human race or the human species that I think we just tend to split into self-identifying tribal groups according to almost any criteria. Now, on skin color, there's an historical dislike, hatred, mistrust, fear of dark-skinned people. That shouldn't shock anybody who reads history. I mean, I do want to say, though, that sometimes my African American friends who get political and understand politics miss something, which is Europeans enslaved Europeans. In fact, the word slave comes from the word Slav, meaning an Eastern European. Europeans murdered and killed and raped and subjugated Europeans for a long time. When they discovered Africa, they discovered essentially the kid on the other side of the playground. They did the same thing with the Americas. They tried to do the same thing with Asia. Asians do it to Asians, et cetera, et cetera. It happens, this is all my opinion, of course, it happens that Africa remains one of the poorer continents on Earth. It remains that way for political, historical reasons, not because they couldn't be producers, not because they couldn't, be risen nations with a lot of economic production, but because we keep them that way. And maybe that goes to what you're saying. Racism is real. I don't deny that it's real.
Hang on one second, because this is very important. Every guest we have on the program, very important. I understand people have a tendency to mistreat each other and to form groups along a lot of bases. But as you said, there's a reason Africa looks the way it does today and is having so many problems. And you said specifically, we keep them that way. I have concluded the we is the white people who practice racism. There's a reason Africa looks that way. There's a reason Haiti looks that way. There's a reason non-white people worldwide are in a very different position than white people. And I have concluded that is the system of racism, white supremacy, where white people dominate non-white people worldwide. Do you feel that that's true or not?
It's true as a matter of sort of evidence and it's true in evidence today because the historical inheritance of who developed steel blades and all that. I mean, there's a lot of history there. If it happened that we on planet Earth in the northern latitudes developed stronger melanin as a result of not having as much sun, then you would be saying that black people dominated white people. If white people if paler skin was endemic to Africa. I really don't have an answer that goes probably that will be satisfying to you. I agree that racism is real, historical racism is real. It's most certainly one of the driving factors. Subconscious racism is real. But, you know, I don't know what the future holds. Because if you're saying that, you know, what is black and white then? You're getting into very philosophical and interesting questions. Is Bill Cosby a white
Wait a minute.
man?
Hang on.
No, hold on. I have a question.
No, wait a minute. This is very important. Words are very important. Hold on, sir. Hold on 1 second. I have not used the term.
Wait a second.
I haven't used the term. This is important. I didn't use the term black. I used the term white. You said that you are a white person. And non-white. I never said black. You said Africa is poor and having a lot of problems, and that we make it that way. I have never called attention to any race other than white, and you said you are white. That is very important.
You asked me if I identified as white. Look, I'm gonna go on with my question because this is kind of irritating and troubling, and doesn't even get into the story that I did or wrote. So
right. I would like to do that as well, but as I
right,
said,
but you apparently won't let me move until
Hold on a second.
Hold on
1 second.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'm going to be done with your show in about 30 seconds. It goes.
That's fine. That's fine,
okay.
Sir. But I mean, because this is very important.
No. I wrote the story about
you feel this is not constructive. If this is not constructive for you, sir, that's fine. But it is very important for my listeners to understand. I have concluded we are in a system of white supremacy. Every guest that comes on my program, I ask them, do you think that's true or not? People have said no. No problem. We move on. People have said yes. No problem. We move on. I just like to make sure that we get a clear answer to that question before we move forward. I think your information is great. And caller left. White person known as Liam Scheff hung up, did not share constructive information with non-white people. I suspect he is a racist, white supremacist. Highly suspect he is a racist, white supremacist. Make sure we get that clearly. Justice.
I agree.
I second.
I think a non-white person and a white person should be arguing, and I think the white person should be answering Gus's question.
I agree. This is, I speak very rarely. Do I speak to guests before they come on the program? Very rarely. I spoke with Mr. Scheff for roughly 40 minutes. About 3 weeks ago, I spoke with him. I told him the name of the program. I told him my view. I told him context of white supremacy specifically and what to expect. I spoke with him today before the program, and I told him the one stance that I have, the one philosophical view that I have is that we are in a system of racism. I said this minutes before we went live on the program. I told him. He said that's a slam dunk. His exact words, no problem. In fact, he said AIDS is eugenics. This is what he said just before we went live. Exact words from his mouth. That's what he said. Yeah, that's exact words from his mouth. AIDS is eugenics. Exactly what he said. He said, I will clarify on your program. And actually, I'm not even that upset about him leaving because I've never had a white guest or non-white guest take that long to answer the question and still not yes or no. And you've heard white people come on the show and say no before. It's not a problem. I just want to make sure that the question is answered clearly.
I think, Gus, has anybody on the show hung up like that before?
I have never had a guest, white or non-white, hang up that early. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I've never had a white or non-white guest hang up that early in the program. The only other guest that I've had that hung up, period, was Michael Bradley, and he was with us for, I believe, an hour and a half, maybe even close to 2 hours before he actually left us. Yeah, I've never had a person, and again, if you go back and listen to the program, what he was saying, the reason I stopped him, words are very important. I never used the term black, and I hope this will ring all the way back to the last 3 programs where black keeps popping up, even back to Dr. Williams. That is exactly why I do not use the term black. I agree with what he said. You will get into problems throwing the word black around because it's very difficult to define. Really makes no sense. If there were no racism, white supremacy, I don't even think that term would exist. It is black. The term black in and of itself is racism, white supremacy. But I didn't use that term, and that is a matter of record. You can go back and listen. Did Gus say black? No. I said non-white. That's the term that I use in every program. Mr. Liam Scheff, you can check out his work. I'm not going to delete it. You can check out his work. He writes extensively about non-white children being mistreated. However, I suspect he is a racist. I suspect he is a white supremacist. The fact that he can't even answer a simple question, yes or no, strongly suspect he is a racist, not interested in sharing constructive information with non-white people. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to take a commercial.
Is racism hurting you? On issues of race, are you unable to speak, think, and act with clarity and confidence? Are you tired of laughing when nothing is funny, smiling when you are not happy, agreeing when you really disagree? At counterracism.com, you can learn specific strategies and techniques to counter the behaviors of the people who practice racism in all areas of activity, using words correctly, following counter-racist logic, even counter-racist science projects designed to reveal what racism is, how it works, and how to counter it. The open source code writing format allows you to pick and choose from a variety of counter-racist suggestions so you can produce the code that works for you. Stop by counterracism.com today and help replace racism with justice.
That's counter-racism.com.
Sorry, gang. I was trying to compensate to check out to see if I could get someone to chat with us for a moment about racism, white supremacy. We did have a couple folks who called in. I wanted to check to see if they had a comment on Mr. Scheff. In my view, Mr. Scheff's disgraceful performance on the program. 631, are you there?
Greetings. Hi, Gus. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. This is V-Stu, of course. I was just calling in just to support. I was looking forward to the talk, but apparently, I don't know if he's from New York or not. I'm from New York. This person that was going to be your guest today. I'm assuming that if he's from New York, he's sort of doing a little trick that they always do when they want to get out of something. In this case, he might have tried to get out of an interview. So this is what they do is like, if you say anything that they don't like, or make them feel uncomfortable in any kind of way, they use that as an excuse to walk away. And I think that's, I mean, it may not be just a New York thing, but that happens a lot here. So.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't. The only thing I would say I'm surprised is I just talked to this gentleman like 30 minutes before we went live. I spoke with him.
Yeah, definitely. I understand.
I spoke with him twice. I spoke with him 3 weeks ago for like 40 minutes. We didn't just have a 5-minute chat about, him saying this is what I write about and that's it. We spoke for, 30, 40 minutes. He's got a web page where he's talking about eugenics. He said just before we went on the program, it's eugenics against black people. That's what he said. I mean, I'm just, I'm flabbergasted that he would feel that irate about.
I just need to know if he considers himself a so-called Jewish person, because it sounds like he did sort of the same thing that Tim Wise did, which is, when he sent you all those emails and, he was just kind of shouting at you about things and just angry, and then he gets on the show and he acts like he's all personable and friendly and all that stuff. So it's sort of the same kind of trick they play, to try to confuse us, which it's becoming less confusing to me every day when they do that stuff. So they're just really practicing racism, white supremacy, and to get out of really telling you what needs to be told about what's going on, and they don't want to be on the record saying anything that they normally wouldn't say. So I think that's what it was with this guy. He probably doesn't really talk in terms of racism, white supremacy on, like when he's on the record, when he's on a video or when he's on audio. When he was talking to you, like off the record, so to speak, that was okay, because nobody else could hear the conversation, or at least that's what he felt. He felt no one else can hear our conversation, so I'm just going to, I'll say whatever I have to say to this guy. But then, when he gets on the show and he actually is being listened to by people who are actually listening out there, a broadcast, all of a sudden it's, this is what happens, so.
Very interesting. I suspect he's a racist. I strongly suspect he's a racist.
Yep, I agree. I strongly suspect he's a racist. Strongly.
Yeah, he did have good information, as most white people do. He had great information about racism and how non-white people are mistreated, but he didn't want to share. He didn't even want to answer the question, which, again, I'm more surprised, as I said, because most of the guests, I have not spoke with them before the program. It's very rare that I'm able to have a conversation on the phone with the guests before we speak. Mr. Scheff, we had 2 phone conversations and email correspondence before the program. I mean, that's, I don't know what to say about that. A couple other folks called in. I guess people want to share their view on Mr. Scheff. There's someone at 111. Are you there? Perhaps 111 is just listening.
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you. 111.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, well, at first I was shocked, but now I'm glad he kind of did that, because this whole praise for white people for actually, how can I say this? For actually telling the truth, you know what I mean? This kind of, they kind of, kind of stops it for me. You know what I mean? It kind of it makes me this makes me catch myself when white people are actually telling the truth. Actually revealing, what they do to us. It's actually him doing this. Like, oh, okay. Well, they could do that, but they could still mistreat you. You know what I mean? So, it's kind of. You can always check out his information. So I know about the Guinea Pig Kids, so it's good information. But him doing this really caught me off guard, but it's good because it tells me to be on my toes. So.
He emailed me. You all got to check this. He emailed me. You got to listen to this. Okay, this is live from Liam Scheff. He just emailed me. He said, "Thanks, Gus. Nice to know that your hatred of white people is the agenda and not the injustices done to the very real people in New York City." Let me rewind so you catch that. Nice to know that your hatred of white people is the agenda and not the injustices done to very real people in New York City. I agree that racism is real, historical racism is real, and what we live in inherited systems. That's what he said, I'm just rereading. And that we live in inherited systems, whether white or black, he has that in quotes, whether white or black exists as total types is unknown to me. Perhaps I misunderstood your question, of course, but you wouldn't allow the conversation to move forward. Best luck. That is from Mr. Scheff. Again, nice to know that your hatred of white people is the agenda. I hope everyone who has listened to the program, you can decide for yourself if you think I have a hatred of white people, and if that is the agenda of the context of white supremacy, to preach hatred of white people.
Wow.
You got it. Very low expectations for white people replacing white supremacy with justice. If asking a white person to hang on to clarify, because again, he's still using the term black, I never said black. And if anyone listened to Dr. Williams' show, you know exactly how I feel about that term. He's still saying it and saying that I have a hatred of white people. So, you know, you can listen to the program and decide for yourself.
Gus, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to mention something. Didn't he say, I mean, maybe he really didn't answer the question, that's why he did it the way he did, but didn't you ask him if he was a white male, and he said, the last time I checked, I was?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, if he doesn't know what white means, if he's putting it in quotes and then he says that he's white, what does that say about him?
Maybe he's really confused. Maybe he's really confused.
I doubt it.
I doubt it as well. I doubt it. Yes, ma'am. I don't think he's confused at all. From his work, he has 2 websites. He has a website, reducetheburden.org, where he has a whole tab on scientific racism and eugenics with bunches of articles about how white people have practiced racism under eugenics and mistreated non-white people. He has tons of these articles on his site. I don't think he's ignorant about this system at all.
Wow. Yep. I think he was trying to avoid the interview when he saw that he was going to be a little bit uncomfortable in this interview, just a teeny bit uncomfortable with answering questions. He decided he was going to skip town, and I think that was pretty much what happened. And you know, just like Lorian said, she said that she was kind of glad that happened because you kind of know who you're dealing with now, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. You know who you're dealing with now, and it's basically, you know, everything. I think about everything that Mr. Fuller said about how they will go and create a problem in the area. You know, they'll give a whole bunch of black people or non-white people a disease. You know, go in and cure like 50 people, you know, out of the 60 and say, oh, we did such great things. You know, that kind of reminds me of what he's doing. It's like, you know, I know that I'm on the white team, so to speak, but I'm going to go over here and act like I'm so benevolent and no one can question me on nothing about what I do. And when someone questions him, when a non-white person like yourself questions him, all of a sudden it's a problem. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what happens in this system, and that's what's going to continue to happen with people like us who are tired of their nonsense. We're going to question you, and you got a problem with the questioning, then it's obvious that you must be hiding something. You're suspicious, and we're going to continue to suspect you of practicing racism and white supremacy, whether you like it or not. And we're going to continue to try to replace white supremacy with justice, whether you like it or not. That's it.
Here, here. I agree wholeheartedly. A few other folks called in. I wanted to get them too. I also want to let people know Cree 7, her program is going to be on in about, I don't know, an hour and 50 minutes. It's coming on at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. She'll be doing her program with Mr. Tommy Hart about religion under the system of white supremacy. So if you take a break or what have you, make sure you get back for Cree's program, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. A couple other folks called in. We can add them to the line as well. 206.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you at 206.
Hello. Hi, Big Bud. It's Little Bud.
I'm sorry?
It's Little Bud.
All right. Right on. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. I was extremely disappointed on the white man. I was excited. I was excited to hear a white man finally telling us some constructive information, especially about AIDS.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But, of course, he is white. He was just doing his job, right? To uninform us.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the previous caller that was speaking, she was right. I totally agree with her in a point that I was checking out his website, and he did his whole career is based on questioning white people authority, right? The larger government and everyone else. His whole career is based on being a good white guy. The nice white guy that wants to help the non-white people. And then all of a sudden this non-white person is like, are you white? He's like, no. I know he wants to say no. But there's a reason why he was able to become so successful and on questioning the bigger government without being shot or killed. He went to he's international. He goes to all these different non-white countries and writes stories on how schools have some problems, people are being experimented on, and it just baffles me that he can't answer a simple question, like if he agrees with white supremacy or not.
I agree wholeheartedly, Little Bud. I agree wholeheartedly. And again, white people and non-white people have come on this program and said, no, I don't agree. Or, I do agree, but I don't think your definition is accurate. He wouldn't have been the first. No big deal. And I told him that.
Yeah.
No
but
big
it's the
deal.
simple fact that he's just like, I'm so offended for you to ask me that.
No big deal at all. I just wanted clarification. And he said true. He said white people, yeah, they dominate. And he wanted to go and talk, for another 5 minutes about tribalism and, you people organize into groups and mistreat all. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant to what we're talking about. The non-white people haven't organized a group to go and spread AIDS amongst white people, at least to my knowledge. I haven't heard anyone talking about that story. I've heard consistently from white people and non-white people, white people are doing things against non-white people all the time. That's what his website is all about, white people doing things to mistreat non-white people.
I think he set up a trap for you. That is my suspicion.
What can you break down the trap?
I feel like he, behind closed doors, just in just a conversation between you and him, he would agree, he'll nod, he'll say yes, 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 of course, of course, of course. And once he gets on air, when he knows that people is out in the public, people are actually listening, non-whites are listening, he realizes, all of a sudden, I think it's just for him personally, he realizes, oh no, I'm going to be exposing something. And I didn't get the greater white consent. Because a lot of his things are published underneath, New York Times, Boston, he was published in Hustler. You know, a lot of those. A lot of big white companies, right, that publish them. And they're like, okay, fine, that's good. All right, you got consent from us. Okay. This he had no consent for. So I suspect he did it out of fear.
Fear. What do you think he was fearful of?
Of a backlash from other white people.
Oh, you think he would have potentially got in trouble with other white people if he had agreed?
If he had agreed with the term of white supremacy.
Very interesting. He just had a document. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say he had a big documentary film that he's a part of, House of Numbers, that's about AIDS and how white people have been dishonest about what AIDS is, what it does, what they know about it. Maybe he would have got in trouble with those people. I'm not sure.
Yeah. He probably had gotten in trouble with those people. I'm just very confused by him. But isn't that what white people, under the system of white supremacy, isn't that what they're supposed to do?
I would say that he gets an A+. If they're non-white people that are confused as a result of what he said, he gets an A+ for the day.
It's okay.
Wow.
They're not in the business of winning points with non-white people. He didn't care that he mistreated us and you.
Yeah, but again, he said I was practicing hatred against white people. So, you know, maybe.
Go
ahead.
I feel like under the system of white supremacy, we don't have the power to inflict hatred or have any action towards anyone. We can hate them, but I don't feel like our hate can do anything. There's no power to, unless I take a knife and stab you. Even at that point, after you're dead, I still get arrested and prosecuted and thrown into a jail system.
Yeah, I do not practice hatred against white people or anyone else. I think anyone who's familiar with the cows, I've had a lot of white people here, and I think I've been very courteous with the guests who've been on the program. And I just wanted them to hang on for 1 second because I felt like we were getting away from the actual question. And I feel like, you know, it's very important that we do get an answer to that question. Do you agree? Yes or no? Do you think it's accurate? Yes or no? And I feel like we just got lots and lots of words, but didn't really get a clear answer, although he did say it's true, white people do dominate non-white people worldwide. But, yeah, 2 thumbs down from Mr. Scheff. I suspect he is a white supremacist. There was one other person they called in. They want to join the lines. Now we have 4 people with us. There's somebody else that called in from 111. Other 111, are you there?
Greetings, Renegade.
Mr. 720, how are you doing, sir?
I'm okay. How are you?
Well as can be expected under current conditions.
Certainly. I wanted to say I think this is one of the absolute best programs that you've had.
Why do you think that, sir?
Yes, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't suspect anything about Mr. Scheff. I definitely, in my mind, he is one of the white supremacists that will definitely do, as Lady Cree said, he will either produce justice or he'll get rid of all of us. And as far as I'm concerned, he's one of those who has definitely shown he will get rid of all of us. So I think that was really good. It's kind of like I think about the plantation, and we're not in any doubt about, Massa going to help us. Massa going to help us. We're not in doubt about that. I feel like, it's the other way. Toby, hide, Toby. Hide, Toby. Massa coming.
Oh, that's great.
So
wow.
It was an absolute wonderful program. Massa came.
Wow. And left promptly.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, indeed. There's one other thing, since we have a few females on the line that I did want to mention. Actually, a couple things. With your last show with Millie McGee and the FBI agent Swearingen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I found that very, very interesting because the last time that I called in, Lady Cree had asked me, and I asked you about if you had encountered any problems when you would say to non-white people that we should be suspicious of all white people. And you said it never really even gets that far. You told about the incident with the university auctioning off black men for dates or whatever, and how hostile they became. But at any rate, and Lady Cree had asked, who do I find to be the most, who voiced the most objections in essence, or who become the most defensive of white people? And I said, it seems, in my experience, and what I observed, since the female seems to be more nurturing than the male, they seem to be more protective and defensive of white people. And I found it interesting that on that show with Millie McGee, not only did she protect, as I think Mr. Nero had said, he said that he didn't go down that path because he felt that Mrs. McGee was borderline and getting ready to become hostile about defending Mr. Swearingen. But now for me, I also found it interesting that she chose to defend the enslaver, the master who enslaved her, I guess, great-great-grandmother and had the children. She chose to see that as a love story, which again spoke to some kind of protection for the master, as far as I'm concerned. And also, she also had sympathy for J. Edgar Hoover when she said how painful it must have been for him to live through what he lived through, knowing that he was not white. So there were three instances where time and time again I heard this protection and defensiveness coming out for white people. And as I said, Mr. Nero also said he stopped his line of questioning because he felt she was about to become borderline and getting hostile about defending Mr. Swearingen. So I just found it interesting that that came out in that show after we had that conversation, you, myself, and Lady Cree. And I think it might be, I would love to hear what the non-white females have to say about how defensive or protective they feel black or non-white men are with white women, if they see that more so from the non-white men in terms of protecting white women as opposed to non-white females protecting white women. It's all very interesting to me. But also one other thing. When Mrs. McGee it seemed as though when she got upset, and this connects back to being suspicious of all white people in one form or another, she seemed to have gotten more defensive of Mr. Swearingen when she said to you, I didn't bring Mr. Swearingen on here to speak for all white people or to be put on the spot. He doesn't speak for all white people the same way I don't speak for all black people. So again, this allness thing connected to white people, and as far as I'm concerned, suspicion and things of that nature, it seems to have some kind of connection, maybe something that could be explored more in terms of bringing out some constructiveness for all non-white people, and letting us know we are still on the plantation. So I just found it interesting.
Can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Which part? In terms of constructiveness, it's a curious question to me how this defensiveness, again, as I said with Mrs. McGee, when she thought Mr. Swearingen had been put on the spot in terms of speaking for all white people.
Right.
And she said he doesn't speak for all white people. That this allness thing seems to have something, it keeps, in my experience, it creates this division big time amongst non-white people. Huge. And as I said, in my conversations with non-white people, when that comes up, the defensiveness and the protection comes out, oh, well, you can't say all white people. There are some nice, good white people. This is why I think the show was so good. It was excellent.
Wow.
But it's a very curious thing to me because on the other hand, with white people, what I observe, and I think you've said this over and over, when it really comes down to telling on one another, they have a code that they keep amongst themselves, and they won't do that. I think Mr. Scheff was perfect evidence of that. Perfect evidence. In spite of all the good things, so-called good things that he says he does for non-white people, what he demonstrated clearly when, as far as I'm concerned, you stepped out of your place with him, and that's what it came down to. When you stepped out of your place with him, he showed you, oh, no, nigga, you don't do that. You don't do that. Yes, it was all very interesting. And one other thing, because I have spoken with some people younger than myself about your show, and the question did come up, and you kind of briefly spoke to it. How informed are your guests in terms of what the show consists of, and getting more specific? It seems interesting to me that in trying to replace white supremacy with justice, oftentimes the questions aren't going to simply be relegated to what the guests have to say in their books, so to speak. And it seems as though they have the impression that it is. And so when other questions are asked, and I know that this has come up a lot with justice as far as I'm concerned, the guests will say, well, wait a minute. Essentially, we didn't come on the show to be asked questions like that. And so I wondered how informed they are that, this is about trying to replace white supremacy with justice. So there will be other questions that have to do specifically with that, as opposed to just questions relating to your book or things of that nature.
We had just a whole lot of other people on the line, so did you
I'm
all
done.
want to respond? Oh, no, I was going to say if they wanted to respond to your question.
Okay.
There's a lot of other people here. If they would like to respond, feel free.
This is 631 again. I just wanted to make two comments about what 720 just said. The first thing is that I wholeheartedly agree that I see it more in non-white women to run to the defense of, run to the defense of white people in general, not just the white man, but white women too, if they feel like they're being so-called attacked by people like us who, who kind of question their motives and question their intentions and everything regarding racism, white supremacy. That's what happened to me on the Alexis Tyler show. I'm sure if you go back and look at the archives, if you haven't heard it already, on Victim of Racism show, towards the end of one of those shows, I think it was the
Rich Benjamin.
Yeah, that's it. it was at the end of that show that I had spoken a little bit about what happened, but it was essentially the same thing, the same old stuff that they do.
I'm sorry, how can I see that? Was this a television show or?
This was actually on Blog Talk Radio.
One of the Renegade show?
It was Alexis Tyler. I don't know if she even has it up anymore because I tried to go into her site and it was disabled or something like that. But she used to have a show on Blog Talk Radio where she would get on and talk about, she's all about, her theme is vagina power. So she talks about, you can probably catch her on YouTube.
I'll try and find it.
Yeah, I believe her first name is spelled Alexyss.
Okay.
And you will see, when you type that into YouTube, you will see her last name Tyler come up, Tylor, and you will get a sense for, what I was dealing with when I called into the show. I was actually sort of nervous calling in because I was just hearing a lot of stuff that was just very scary to me. And essentially they were talking on this show about especially they were talking about, interracial marriage, interracial dating, and they had, this one white guy that was sort of a regular on her show that would come on and talk about, how he loves black women and the darker the better and all kinds of stuff. And then there was these black women that were on there, and they were just, talking the praises of interracial dating, and they were talking the praises of this guy. One of the women actually dated him before, and she was on there trying to flirt with him, and it was crazy. And I just wish that we had a tape of that. Maybe we can get a tape from her one day. Maybe somebody can request a copy from her. I don't know if she'll give it to us for free, but that
you could get it.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I think that could be obtained. I know the non-white female who was on the program with Miss Tyler. I suspect you could probably ask one of those two people, and they would be willing to share. And I can even tip my hand. I have asked the non-white female to come on the show to share her views on interracial relationships. She said yes. So we might be able to get that on the cow so you all can hear firsthand what you said. Yeah.
Oh, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, but that whole nurturing thing, maybe that's the case, but I don't know. It may be, it may not be. I'm not really sure. But I noticed that non-white women tend to run to the rescue real quick when it comes to, and just the actual term white supremacy. That's the other comment I wanted to make. When you say racism, white supremacy enough times to someone, whether it's a non-white person or a white person, it tends to stick in their brain. And then the indictment of the whole white collective starts to come into play, and then you start, and I think that that's part of the reason why, you see non-white people running to the defense of white people because they start hearing these terms that kind of, scare them. Like, oh, wait a second, they're trying to indict everybody, including this guy I used to sleep with. That I can't handle that. Can't handle that. And same thing goes with this your guest last week. And she's entitled to everything she says because, again, she's a victim of white supremacy, so she says what she says. However, I look at it, that whole entire situation when she tried to come to the defense of the white guy as, well, that's what we do in the system of racism and white supremacy. And I think that when she heard racism and white supremacy so many times from victim of racism and from the callers that called in, when you hear that enough times, it starts to stick to you. As a matter of fact, I think that, Gus, you had someone on your show once that I can't remember who it was, but it was a white person that you had on your show once that actually said that they were getting very uncomfortable because they heard that term 14 times or something like that. He heard the term so many times, and he just started getting uncomfortable just being in the interview. And I think he admitted to that. That's who it is. Who it is. He admitted to it. So that right there, when he said that, I said, okay, I just want to see, and what I'm going to start doing, I'll do this for you personally, Gus, is that every time I listen to a show, whether I listen to it live or not, because I intend on listening to every show, I'm going to listen to the show, and I'm going to count how many times you said racism, white supremacy. And then I'm going to see when that white person started to squirm. I'm going to start when. I just want to start seeing when they start to squirm. And when I say squirm, I mean when their answers start to not make any sense. Okay, so that's why I think that is very important. Words are more important than people realize.
I agree wholeheartedly. I was just saying that maybe 2 days ago I was talking to another non-white person, and I was saying that when Nancy Krieger was here, I can plug that again. When Dr. Krieger was on the show, I feel like she had a lot of valuable information, and I think a lot of non-white people missed it because she doesn't sound like Tim Wise. She doesn't have a great speaking voice. She's not going to win any speech competitions. But she does have great information, and I was saying that I think a lot of times non-white people, we don't listen to every word. We are not precise in communication with really paying attention to every word someone says and making sure that it makes sense. And you really have to do that with white people to understand what they're saying. And I think with Nancy Krieger, people didn't pay attention to every word, so they missed a lot of information. I think with Mr. Scheff, paying attention to every word, you'll see he was the one doing something incorrect. He came out before he stormed off. He said, there's no black and white, and it was important. Slow down, Mr. Scheff. I never used the term black. The only term I used, white, non-white. You said you're white, so we shouldn't have a problem with the term white because you've already said you're white. And he agreed. Very important to slow down and pick up every word with white people. And that even came up with the Robert Jensen program because at first he admitted he got uncomfortable with the term victim of white supremacy. He said, you keep saying that lovely phrase. And then he later admitted, that is true. You are a victim, and that is the most accurate term if you're a non-white person. He admitted that on the show, but he also said, it's making me uncomfortable. It's making me uncomfortable. It's some of my guilt as a white person coming out. He said that on the show. So I totally agree. And if you keep tabs, please share with us. Let us know if you are picking up any trends as to when these white people begin to get uncomfortable. Sorry, that was my ramble. Sorry. Please, everybody else.
No, not at all, because I had been talking for a while. I was just going to say that, I'm definitely, and the shows that I didn't get a chance to see, I'm going to listen to, I'm going to actually go back, and I just want to see exactly what the trend is, because, we're constantly being told not to talk about racism. I think that was mentioned last week as well. We got to stop talking about it. Why bring attention to it? Don't bring attention to them. Morgan Freeman says, let's stop talking about it. I said, well, if they want it, as far as I'm concerned, it's a matter of when. If you want someone to stop talking about something, when do they stop talking about it? When they don't feel the pain anymore. So if you don't want to, if you want the pain to stop, then racism, white supremacy, then I'll have no problem not talking about it. I can find many other things to do than to talk about this. Believe me, I am an adventurous person. I could find so many other things I wish I could be doing right now. But I'm trying to work on this problem as well as many others due to racism, white supremacy. So you know what? I will stop talking about it when someone is willing to eliminate it and eliminate it now. That's it. So that's it for my...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, no, I was just going to say that's it for me.
And again, thank you for calling in and checking out the program 631. Everybody, thank you. The 111 or my bud, little bud on the phone, either one, if you all have a comment or response.
Hello?
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can go. I'll wait.
No, you please.
Okay, for me, it's I understand when y'all talk about the women being more nurturing, but for me, it's a total different experience. Non-white men, I have experienced, probably because I talk to more non-white men than non-white women, they come in defense to white women, and I think that's because the whole sex between whites and non-whites, a lot of younger non-white men do that where I'm from. And for non-white women here, they experience racism when it comes to white women, whether it be a teacher telling them, well, you're not going to make it, maybe you should choose something else, or, white woman was put in charge of hiring and she'll treat them different than the other white people or non-white people. You see what I'm saying? So for me, it's different experience, and the non-white men were more defensive when it comes to white women than non-white women come in defense when it comes to white men. I think it has to also, if you include the people with non-white parents, with one white parent, yeah, I have to say they would be the ones who really defend white people. But I don't talk to a lot of them, so I talk to more people who have two non-white parents.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
This is Lil Bud.
Yes.
In response to, I'm a victim. I'm sorry, I can't remember names. I apologize. The caller who called in asking about non-white females defending white males.
Yeah, 720.
My theory about what is it?
720.
720. Okay, I'll try my best to remember.
It's okay.
So I believe I'm a non-white female. I believe that the reason non-white females tend to defend white males is that they do recognize that there is a power out there being with a white male or defending a white male. That if you have them on your side, that you're better off. And females, if you're going to look at the context of white supremacy, tend to be fetishized a lot more. And if you're going to say in the power scheme of things, white males tend to hold a lot more power. So they tend to be able to fetishize non-white women a lot easier. And that way, if you feel like you belong to someone, you're going to defend whoever owns you. Because you become a possession. You feel like a possession. And if your owner is protected, you yourself is protected.
Also, white men, I could see how white women, to her point, I could see why non-white women would be confused, because white men, I know they are really nice to me. They find me attractive, so they are really nice to me. So I could see how it would be hard to respect all white people when people say, oh, well, white men this and white men that, when white men are really nice to me, right? But white women, on the other hand, unless they don't, I don't know how to explain it. Unless they know that I'm prettier than them, you know what I mean? If they don't see me as competition, then they're nice to me. But if they do see me as competition, then they're not nice to me, or you know what I mean? So I think if I could see how non-white women who are getting treated nice by white men would be confused. You see what I'm saying? Because everyone has to say, oh, white men this and white men that, forgetting the white woman, right? So if white men are nice to me, then I don't understand how, you know what I'm saying? They would say, oh, well, I don't see what you're talking about, because white men are nice to me, right? So it can't be white men. You see what I'm saying? So white people like to play, well, I've noticed they play us against each other, right? They'll be nice to the opposite sex. They'll be mean as hell, mistreat the same sex. Mm. And then when you bring it up to the person, the opposite sex, oh, well, this is white person did this. Oh, well, what are you talking about? He's nice to me. And then you have two non-white groups, non-white men and non-white women fighting because the opposite sex is being nice to them. When their same sex is being mean to them. You see what I'm saying? Mm. So I think that's important. Because white men are really nice to me. offer to buy me things, move me places, and pay my rent, buy me cars, stuff like that. But if I didn't realize, there was a system of white supremacy, if I wasn't pay attention about non-white men and how they're treated and how white women have treated me in the past, then I feel like I would be saying, this show is crazy. What are you guys talking about? White men are so nice to me. Oh, my God. And they do this for me. I would be accepting the offer. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. I think that's important, taking in this whole thing that white people, they'll be nice to the opposite sex if they want to have sex with them. But the same sex, not the same.
I agree with that. And then in regards to non-white men treating white women, or they're coming to defense of white women in the context of white supremacy, let's all agree that white people have the upper hand. So if you are a non-white male and you're in a relationship with a white female, don't you have a little bit more power, supposedly? You have it's almost like a trophy thing. It's a possession. I have what the white man, or usually has, or whatever.
And even that, white women even have more access to stuff. You see what I'm saying? Just because she's white, so he could benefit off of that, even though he could still be mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, the theory is that you're gonna get treated like crap, but if you get with a white person, at least you can get some stuff by having a white person on your arm.
Mm-hmm.
So goes with the entertainment industry too. I've noticed a lot of people, the people who are non-white and they have a white mate, they get the good press. You know what I mean? And while the people who just have they're non-white and have a non-white mate, they don't get as much press. There's not they're on the beach and on the romantic honeymoon. No, they ain't all that. So I noticed that too. That's a sure way of making it in Hollywood. I got a list on that. Are You Here Blind? That's one of them. Mm-hmm. Get a white mate. That's always a good one. Get a white mate, and then claim a white descendant. Just make it up. You don't have to have a white descendant. Just claim a white descendant. Say that, my grandmother was German. You just change your name. And then, you're going to get in. So that's more something I noticed.
Wow. I believe Cree has said the same thing, or something very similar to that, about how when she's not with a non-white male, black male specifically, she's treated much better. That people are nicer to her, white people are nice to her, they flirt with her, that sort of thing. I think quite a few non-white females have said that white people, white males specifically, are nice to them. If they feel like they're attractive, that sort of thing. I think I've even had a non-white female, she said when white women felt that, they could be a threat, like a potential threat in terms of competing for a mate, then they get more mistreatment. Then they're much more hostile, no niceties then. It's all, ugliness. But if they don't feel like you're a threat, all nice, everybody's sweet, very, very nice to you under those conditions. So I think some other people have experienced or said something very similar to what you all have observed. And Lauren Ashley, she actually was the person who suggested doing a program on the Guinea Pig Kids. She didn't say Mr. Scheff specifically. She didn't tell me a name in terms of who I should try and get on the program, but she just said that that was an important story and definitely relates to racism, white supremacy, and it does. I highly encourage anyone investigate, do your own research. You can even look at some of Mr. Scheff's stuff. That would probably be good because you'll have in mind this is not a white person that I'm going to jump up and down and praise just because they've done this work. But he does have a lot of constructive information on how non-white children in New York foster care system were mistreated, still being mistreated. This is kind of still ongoing, mistreated by suspected racists. Did that answer your questions, Mr. 720? Did they take care of your questions or?
Oh, I'm extremely grateful for all their comments. They're extremely interesting. I'll think long and hard about everything they've said. Thank you all very, very much. Extremely interesting. I did want to say, is it I don't know, is it 631?
Yes.
I don't recall which program it was, but I appreciate everyone's comments. But there was a particular show you called in. I don't know if it was 2 shows ago. I'm not sure, 2 or 3. But I particularly appreciated everything you had to say. Everything.
Well, thank you. I probably sounded furious at the time. I think that was the word that was used. Is that the one you're talking about?
That's the one.
Yeah. I didn't want to sound like I was furious, but, it all comes out when you start thinking about it, unfortunately. I have to start getting a little bit more codified, like Mr. Fuller, of course. Maybe I need a little bit of time. He's, like, in his 70s, and, I still have a ways to go, so maybe someday I will be able to be more codified when I talk.
Well, I didn't take it that way at all. And then it does raise the question for me, when, as you say, if we're not as codified as we'd like to be, and we're trying to find a way to get some of that fury or anger out of us, then what do we do? What do we do? So I took it as all good. It was all good as far as I was concerned, because otherwise we keep it in, and then it mounts on us and mounts and mounts and mounts. And who knows how much more sick we become. So I took it as all good. And that's always been a very curious question for me, for those of us, as I was saying, I was speaking with some very young people about racism, white supremacy. And they had been denied jobs, better paying jobs, and had been promised the jobs, and then watched white people get the jobs before them. And being young, they they broke down and started crying. And what that told me was clearly the anger and the negative emotions that they were experiencing from something that had happened weeks before had not left them. And so, like I say, the question comes up, in some way those emotions need to be released, and how to do it in a constructive way, which I thought what you did was extremely constructive as far as I'm concerned, so that we don't keep that into us and become, as so many do, walking time bombs.
Well, thanks for making me feel like I didn't sound like I was ranting. Because I
No.
went back and listened to that show, and I felt like I was ranting, but thanks for making me feel like that's not what I was doing. So
I didn't take it that way at all.
Thank you.
Wow. Very interesting program. Again, context of white supremacy. I got to do my Thanksgiving show after all. Seems like where this was what I wanted to do yesterday, or Thursday. Just have non-white people share how they've been mistreated and suggestions for working against it. I can, because I don't have the programs entered, so I can at least say that for next month, there are already 5 shows for December. I just haven't got them plugged in yet. There'll be 2 next weekend, 1 Friday and 1 Saturday. Both will be white people. Dick Lair will be here. I don't remember the days right now. You'll just have to check back. Dick Lair will be here either Friday or Saturday, and Matt Ray will be here the other day. Matt Ray, he wrote a book about white. His book is called Not Quite White. His book is about the white people, or so-called white people, who don't quite make it on the white team and why. and Dick Lair's a suggestion from 720. He is a journalist, and he broke a story in Boston about how enforcement officials were practicing racism. That'll be next weekend, and the following weekend, Dr. Francis Cresswell will be back, second trip to the cows. Charles Mills, he wrote The Racial Contract. He'll be here, and William Pepper. They'll all be here the following weekend, so should be very interesting. December should have some constructive programs. If I may ask anybody, did anyone observe any acts of racism during the festivities this past Thursday with so-called Thanksgiving?
No, I haven't actually.
I didn't participate at all.
I mean, I didn't participate either. I guess that's basically. I mean, I actually wanted to. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to change the subject, but I just want to confirm what I forgot what area code he was calling. I think it was Mr. Nero from last week. He mentioned the movie 2012. Okay. Actually, everything that he was talking about, I saw the same thing when I was watching the movie, and I went to see it in the theater. And it was just interesting, everything that was going on in there. And the way that those other two guests that you had on the show that actually rate racism in films, I can't remember their names right now. I think it's Khalid Patterson and...
Right.
Yeah. So the way that they talk about what they do with the black characters, they were right on point with that. Right on point with everything they said. They said, when they do show a so-called black hero, they always have flaws. So the young black scientist had a lot of flaws. They were right on point with that. When the black president decides that he's just going to stay with the people, that didn't happen in Independence Day. That guy got in the plane right away and flew up. He didn't know what happened to his wife at that point. And I remember that because he called his wife, but he didn't know exactly if she was safe or not. So he wasn't even he wasn't concerned about staying behind or anything like that. But the black president stays behind so he can die. So I just thought that was interesting. That they seem to be right on point with the whole entire analysis of what they do in these films. And it's just funny how these people are still able to do films and not be at least somewhat original. You would think that they would try to flip the script a little bit, but to sit there and do the same things over and over again to a pattern, to a science, and then still get paid all this money out. It's just amazing. I mean, lucky for me, I didn't pay for the movie. Not to say that the person that paid for me, I don't want to say anything about them paying for it, but, at least I didn't pay. I felt like, okay, thank God I didn't pay for this movie because I just cannot contribute to this kind of nonsense going on where they get to do these patterns in these movies and keep continuing with the pattern and nobody called them on it. I mean, with all the money these people have in Hollywood, try to at least come up with something new. That would be nice, But anyway, that's all I wanted to say about 2012.
Well, as regards that and related to that, someone else had spoken with me about the movie and said that he found this to be the most important thing in the movie. He said that at the end of the movie, the only continent that hadn't been really affected by all this catastrophe and disaster was the continent of Africa. Now, what he found interesting was this, and they made sure to give you a really good cutaway, and this also applies to you asking about Thanksgiving, Renegade. He said that at the end of the movie, there were 3 ships, because they had these special ships. heading towards the continent of Africa. Well, he said that one of our scholars, Dr. John Henrik Clark, had said that, I don't know, maybe over 20 years ago, that what white people were planning was to recolonize Africa. Well, these 3 ships were shown very, very prominently and openly heading towards Africa. And he said what they represented was, again, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria.
Wow.
I found that very interesting.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't really comment, but what you all have said sounds very interesting. I can't wait to check it out and take notes. Miss Ashley, are you still there?
Huh?
Okay, I was just checking to make sure you're still there. Did you want to share any comments, because you listened to the program with Dr. Kevorkian and Mr. Patterson about racism in film, and you actually watched the film that I believe it was Dr. Kevorkian. I don't know if it was Dr. Kevorkian or Mr. Patterson, but one of them recommended Neo Ned with Gabrielle Union, and she was in a sexual relationship with a Nazi, I believe. You actually watched the film. You want to share a little bit of what you saw in the film?
It was depressing, because the black female, he doesn't, in these movies, she never ever has like a good guy. First of all, they tell us that all the black men, there's no good black men, and if there are good black men, they're with white women, or they have AIDS, or they're on the down low, or they're gay, or, and then they just, every time she ventures out, she always gets screwed over. So, yeah, in this movie, she has sex with the racist, and basically the movie was telling white people on how to have sex with a non-white person, basically. Because they have one scene in the movie where she tells him, just be nice and talk behind my back like other white people do. So, yeah, that movie was something else. That's all I had to say about that. That's all it really taught you, how to have sex with a non-white person. Just be nice to them. I'm sorry that doesn't, that's not really for me, but that's basically what I got from it. He was a white supremacist. He was nice to her. And she had sex with him. The end. All non-white people are looking for her. That's basically it. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello?
Yep, I don't know what's going on.
I got kicked off.
We lost Gus for a second there. I don't know what happened.
I got kicked off. Oh,
Gus, you still there?
Hello?
Is who still there?
You.
Oh, yeah. I'm here. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay, because we hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. I was listening. You're supposed to be sharing your view.
Well, that was basically, that's all I got from it is, to shut white people, to shut non-white people up, just be nice with them, have sex with them. That's about it. I mean, that's all I really got from that movie. Sorry.
I'm still gonna watch it too. Miss Ashley, strongly suggested that I watch the film, so I will make sure that I watch it, and maybe we'll both write a review on it to pick out things that we saw in the film.
I'm just curious. Did she know that he was a neo-Nazi? I don't.
Yeah, she knew.
She knew?
She knew. Yep, she knew. And she
Is
told
something
him.
wrong with her?
She was.
Being her character.
Yeah, she was raped by a white photographer when she was younger. So yeah, she had issues with that, and that's why she was in the mental hospital. She met him at the mental hospital.
Oh, okay. So she was raised by
No, she was raped.
White person.
She was raped by a white photographer.
She was raped by a white. Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah,
and then she ended up in the mental hospital because of that.
Well, basically, yes. That's why she checked herself in. She checked herself in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's interesting that she was in a movie like that, because I remember her being on Oprah, and she was talking about when she was, you know, this was before she became like a big actress. She was actually working in a retail store, and somebody came in to rob the store, and they raped her. I think she was about 19 years old at the time, so it doesn't surprise me that she would do a movie like that. But a neo-Nazi, that's going to the extreme. I mean, I guess that really came, that stuff must have really came out in that movie for her. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. A lot of non-white people in the entertainment industry were raped or molested. I could go down the list, seriously. There's a lot of them.
Wow.
And I think that has to do, I think they pick these people out because the mental mind frame and their, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. They know what to do to them kind of people because of what happened.
They know how to trigger them.
Exactly. They know how to manipulate them.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, a lot of especially black men and women are have a past history like that. So.
Yeah, that's horrible. Really horrible. Again, they're living off somebody. They're working off somebody else's misery, manipulating things, and that's terrible. Yeah.
Ms. Ashley, you said there was one specific scene, I guess the bedroom scene, which you thought was just, you know, really telling about the shirt that the Nazi had on during this scene. Do you remember which scene I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. Man, I don't remember that.
He had on a shirt that had some sort of racism on the T-shirt while they were doing the bedroom scene.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you share that? Because you saw the film.
I don't remember what it said, though. I don't remember. They didn't even do it in the bedroom at first. They did it at some abandoned building. And it was raining, so they went inside.
Okay.
And he was like, well, the races shouldn't mix. And she said, this is your way of telling me that you like me. And so then they start getting busy or whatever.
Was it a Nazi logo on the shirt itself, or?
I don't remember, but I know it was something white supremacy, something like really obvious. I don't remember. So. Wow.
Like I said, I'm definitely gonna check it out. It's online too. You can find it online if you don't want to go to the video store or whatever. Save your coins. You can get it online. Just NeoNed. That's the name of it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. I'll get it for you. But yeah, it's online. NeoNed. Gabrielle, I think it came out in 2005. Gabrielle Union. I don't know if there are any other stars in it, but yeah, you can check it out and share your own thoughts on what you thought about the program.
Well, it turned out to be a really good show, after all. I mean, better than having the guy sit there and talk and not really give us any real information. So I agree with 720. Maybe this is actually the best show.
I'm very pleased. I do want to make sure I don't miss Mr. Scheff's email that he immediately hung up and wanted to write, nice to know that your hatred of white people is the agenda and not the injustices done to the very real people in New York City. That's sentence one. And I'll make sure I put this on the Facebook group from Mr. Liam Scheff. He felt we are about preaching hatred of white people. Yeah. I guess so.
But then
I'm sorry.
But then I have a question for you, Renegade. Does that mean you're not a real person?
Maybe not. I'm just a hate monger. I'm not a real person. Maybe that's what that means. I'm not a real person. I'm just spewing, just here to spew my ugliness on the radio program about white people. That's what I do.
Oh gosh.
To be expected, though. I hope that if one lesson, if you're a non-white person, you attempt to do counter-racist work, you can expect that sort of thing. You can expect to be labeled a racist. You can expect to be to have people say, you hate white people, or you're just preaching hate. You can expect to hear that. I've heard that before from white and non-white people. Particularly when I say you should be suspicious of all white people. I've heard it, especially then. You're racist. You are. You want hatred of white people. You hate white people. I've heard that all the time. So just be prepared. That's the type of thing you will encounter. So you can have a code in place for what you're going to say or do when white people accuse you of being racist or practicing hatred.
Hello?
Oh yeah, I didn't want to monopolize because I know there are quite a few folks here. Actually, Miss Ashley, did you want to share what to tell them a little bit about the Guinea Pig Kids? Because you were the one that told me about it.
Oh well, it's been long since I read that article, but basically, they were experimenting on foster kids with AIDS drugs. I didn't really research it beyond that article because it really messed with my head, so I couldn't do it. I read an article in the Essence magazine a couple years ago, and it just really messed me up. So, like I knew white supremacy existed, but when I found out that it went so far to kids, it just really irked me. It didn't feel right. So, yeah, I couldn't investigate that anymore. But the information's out there for sure.
Yeah, it is pretty disturbing. I mean, when you begin looking at the reports of what happened, like the non-white foster kids in New York City, and they were alleged to be HIV positive, and there are a lot of problems with that. That Mr. Scheff he has information about that. Just the inaccuracy of the tests, whether or not they really are HIV positive or whether these tests are measuring something else. But the kids, they were given these experimental drugs, real dangerous drugs that were known to be toxic and harmful. They were given these drugs. The drugs tended to make the children sicker in a lot of instances, and if the kids refused to take their medication, or if their parents or guardians, if they didn't want to give them the medication, the white people who were in charge of these studies would get angry and make them take the medication. One way they would do it, they would take a plastic tube and insert it in their nose make them take the drugs that way. If they continue to complain or not take the medication, they would insert the plastic tubing in their stomach and give them the medication that way. And he had documented evidence where in some instances, if the child was doing better not being on the meds, the doctors assumed that they might have stopped taking the medication. Like that would be one indicator that they weren't taking their medication if their health was improving. And he spoke with white people who said one of the main reasons that we're taking kids, they were actually removing kids from their home if they weren't taking their medication. One of the main reasons that they would do the removals would be failure to adhere to the medication schedule. Like they said this on record. That's one of the main reasons for us removing kids at this point is for failure to adhere to the medication schedule and taking the meds, all of the medication when you're supposed to take it. They said they wanted 100% compliance. This was in the report. 100%, no excuses, no, I ran out of my prescription, we got tied up in traffic, no excuses, take your medication every time. And I mean, they were saying that they really didn't point to any positive attributes of this drug. It really was not in the children's best interest to be taking this drug. They were just being used, to experiment on, basically. And this is, non-white kids. He says it over and over in the work. Non-white. Well, he doesn't say non-white. He says black and Latino. And that's another one, if you want to talk about words, to come on the program and say, well, what is black? What is white? He uses these terms in his work. He used the term. He said, these are black and Latino kids repeatedly. So that's a short synopsis of what the program is going to be about. I would encourage you to, do your own research. It is, as Ms. Ashley said, it is a very, very disturbing thing, but unfortunately, it should be expected as long as white supremacy exists. This is nothing new, whether it's Tuskegee, the experiments that were conducted on slaves that Professor Randall talked about. This is nothing new. This is the type of thing you should expect as long as white supremacy exists. And you should expect white people like Mr. Scheff to come along and report on this and say, oh, it's bad, oh, they shouldn't be doing this. But I can't really say that, I believe Mr. Scheff is about replacing white supremacy with justice based on his conduct on the program today. So,
I was just thinking about the health care plan as regards to this particular, the Guinea Pig Kids. I was just thinking that, if they have this public option, who's to say that they're not going to set it up in such a way that they will start experimenting on people through this so-called universal health care plan? So, I'm just throwing it out there like I throw out a lot of stuff. I'm just throwing it out there so that people are, just be a little wary. Be careful, please, about how you deal with people in the racist white supremacy system, that's white and non-white, when it comes to your medical needs, your health needs.
I wholeheartedly agree. That, like, as I said, this type of thing should be expected, and particularly with the whole H1N1 swine flu thing, you definitely should be very suspicious. Mr. Scheff, he talks about that. He makes that connection and saying you should be leery, and I even think he was saying specifically non-white people should be leery that, something could be incorrect about what they're doing about all this, and it could have an agenda of mistreating people and practicing injustice. So I wholeheartedly agree with 631.
This is a little unrelated, but I would like to say this. For the young people that I spoke with that were so hurt about not being promoted, as far as I'm concerned, this was highly constructive. It was said to all of them repeatedly, and all your information was given for your shows, Renegade, and they were told repeatedly, listen, 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 and pay close attention to all of your shows. Listen to as many of them as they possibly can, because it would be extremely helpful for them to start having a better understanding of what white supremacy is and how it works, and perhaps to help them have more constructive ways to deal with it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope that I hope they find the shows constructive if they listen. I hope they find some value in them. It's not a waste of their time. I don't tell anybody the shows are constructive. I suspect they might be. I hope they are. But yeah, thank you. I would love to have them call the program. I would love to have some younger people call in and share, what they've experienced or how they've seen white supremacy thus far, or if they're seeing it at all. Maybe they feel like white people treat them right. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be great if they would call in. I did ask them to do that too.
Yeah, I would even be willing to put them on a show. Like, they can be the guests for the show to talk about, their feelings or how they're seeing things. How old are these people?
Between 17 and 21.
Okay. Yeah, I would be real curious about that, just to see how they've experienced the system of white supremacy at that age. What experiences they've had with white people. If they feel like white people are mistreating them, how they, are they having constructive contact with other non-white people? I would be real curious about. Yeah, you can throw that out there. They can be a guest on the show.
I certainly will.
Wow, real interesting. Little Bud, if you're still there, do you want to plug your blog? Because I know I saw the new blog, and I know you are very informed about white supremacy. So.
I would plug it, but it's not up to my standards, so I don't feel like it's constructive for anyone to view. But I will come back. I will call back, and when I am constructive again, I will plug it. So thank you.
Okay, that's a deal. Deal. Next time, well, hopefully, yes, it'll be constructive. So when you call in next time, you have a free plug, so more people can go check out your work.
Thank you.
Right on, Miss Ashley. Did you want to plug the blog or blog?
No. So, well, I gotta say that I'm debating about whether I want to continue that blog or I even want to continue Test Reality. I'm on the limb with that. Because I don't want it to hinder me or my family. Because it's my name and my face on it. If I was anonymous, it'd probably be easier, But because it is my face on it, I'm debating on whether I should keep it or not.
I see. That's smart. I mean, that's a legit concern, as a non-white person in a system of white supremacy. That is a legit concern.
Yeah.
I don't have my face on my blog.
It could be used against me, in my other efforts. So I still want to do so much more. So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I totally understand, how you feel on that one. I don't have my face on my blog or the radio show, so, I feel you. I did want to say again, Cree 7, her program will be on in almost 30 minutes. She'll be on Blog Talk Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Her guest will be Tommy Hart. They'll be talking about Christianity, how religion has been used to mistreat non-white people. So make sure you support her program. I guess I'd say the chat room. Did anyone have any comments? I didn't have the chat room open. That might be a pattern on the cows. I can explain why, but I did want to ask people, how would you feel if there was no chat room for the folks tuning in live to the program? How would you all feel about that?
I like the chat room.
Why do you like the chat room?
Because people ask good questions. There's always going, knuckleheads on any show, right? Cause confusion. But people ask good questions, and we bounce off each other. You see, because for me, I'm a little dingy when it comes to racism. So when it comes to asking questions, especially with white people, I'm like, I ask some good questions every now and then. But some people in the chat room, it's like, okay, what about this? What about this? What about that? You see what I'm saying? So it helps me learn about what to ask. But I guess it should just be like a warning or something like, not a warning, how can I say that? Just like a message that says, there's going to be people in the chat room who's there to cause confusion. Just ignore them. That's all. Just ignore them. Stay on task. And that is to be constructive. So, yeah, that's my little 2 cents on that.
I see. Anyone else? Did they have feedback or comments about the chat room and its constructiveness?
I agree with Ms. Ashley. I like to hear the different questions, too.
Okay.
I'm not. I look at the chat board, but every once in a while, not every once in a while. I say like every 20 minutes, I'll just not even look at it at all because, it is a little bit distracting. But at the same time, I do agree that sometimes there's questions that come up that might prove to be useful during the program. And all like Lorian said, all the knuckleheads, they're just knuckleheads. That's it. I don't. Just don't pay attention. I don't even, as soon as I recognize where it's going, I don't even pay attention to that stuff. So.
I think my compromise, and I'm begrudging about this, I really have no love for the chat room. I really have no love for the chat room, period, at Blog Talk Radio because just people are just talking crazy. Like, there have been so many times I just looked at the chat room during the show, and people were talking about something that had nothing to do with the program at all. Like, that seems to be standard for the chat rooms at Blog Talk Radio. And I really wouldn't care, and this wasn't an issue for the first, 30 programs of the cows because I was never in front of a computer during the show, so I couldn't see the chat room anyway, so I didn't care what people were talking about. But now that I am able to be in front of the computer more regularly for the show, I'm able to see why people are missing things that are being said on the show. And I'm going to consistently use Dr. Krieger because I had 2 non-white people who listened to that show live, and they didn't think, she had constructive things to share. They went back and listened the second time, and they said, wow, she did have constructive things to share. I don't know why I missed it the first time. I think the chat room is part of that because it's distracting. You have their suspected racists that I see in the chat room just there to cause confusion and act silly. Then there are other non-white people who come in who are confused, and they end up adding to the drama that's going on in the chat room. Even if that wasn't the case, sometimes when I'm just looking and I see non-white people who are informed about white supremacy, but they end up having conversations that get very involved. It ends up diverting attention. Like, I don't think I could do the show constructively and follow the chat room. I know I couldn't do both. I've told people I'm not paying attention to the chat room because I really couldn't focus on what the white people are saying to ask questions and think critically about what they're saying. So I will compromise. I'll open the chat room about an hour into the show. Anybody that has beef about that, get your own show, then you can do what you want to do. You don't have to listen. I've said that repeatedly. If you don't think that was a constructive thing to do, you don't have to listen to the cows. There are other shows out there. I guess there are not that many, but like I said, you can get your own show. You can get your own show. Blog Talk is free, and it would be much easier for you to do a show than me because I don't have a phone or a computer. So if you have either, it would be much easier for you to do this. So I'll open it at about the 1 hour mark. So if you have questions, you can just write them down, save them. Then I'll open it in an hour. It's open right now. I'll open it about an hour in. And then that hour, you can go in and write your questions, and I'll go look and see if anybody has questions that I think are constructive, and I'll ask. So that'll be the compromise on the chat room, but that is why I'm closing it for the first hour, because I think, or we'll see. We'll see if it's more constructive, if people get more out of the show, with the chat room being closed for that first hour.
Do what you need to do to codify.
Exactly. And we experiment. We're experimenting. I'm experimenting to see if this will aid in everyone, particularly non-white people. That's really who I'm concerned about. Will aid in us getting more bang for our buck for the program. We will see. We will see. That's two. I want to give people time to freshen so they can go listen to Cree's program and support her efforts. Thank everyone for tuning in. Again, I will post Mr. Scheff's email. I'll put it on the Facebook page so everyone can see, him hatred, us practicing hatred against white people. I'll put it on the Facebook page. Thank everybody for tuning in. As I said, there are 5 shows next month. They're just not entered yet. I'll try and get all those entered so you can see when the next programs are coming through. Support Back of the Bus's website, nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. One more time, nonwhitealliance.wordpress.com. My website is racism-notes.blogspot.com. You can check that out as well. Justice, would you like to give them your email address?
justice.asap@yahoo.com. Again, justice.asap@yahoo.com.
Outstanding. We will be back Friday. Next Friday we'll be back. It'll either be Matt Ray or Dick Lair. Just check back and find out which one it is. Next weekend, 2 programs. Thank you all for listening in. I hope you had a constructive week, and hopefully the program has been of some value. I will be in touch soon. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Thank you.